Today we're going to talk about international medical insurance, health insurance, international health coverage. Goes by a whole lot of different names out there, but basically you want to be able to cover your butt when you are abroad and something goes wrong. So today I'm going to discuss with you, and Julie's going to discuss with you, our history with medical care while we have been outside the United States, slow traveling as expats and nomads, primarily through Europe. And we're going to talk about various health coverages and how you should look at them, and maybe some ideas of how you can put them into your plans and make them affordable. But as a little bit of background, for those of you that don't know, Julie and I, my name's Warren, we've been traveling with our two dogs for over 4 years now. I'm early retired, and initially during my retirement, my former life, I was involved with insurance. I was a licensed insurance agent. However, I always worked with large companies for their employer groups, or I worked with brokers covering areas of the country and trained the brokers about the products for the company that I was working with. So I was never really dabbling with the individual programs. And so when Julie and I decided that we're going to retire and travel abroad, I did a deep dive into various forms of international medical coverage, and we finally decided upon a program for us that gave us a $1 million maximum coverage each, $2,500 deductible, and it was at that point $185 a month. It's about $240 a month right now, because as you get older, the costs go up for these. So I think we've got a pretty good amount of coverage for what we're paying per month. Now, as we started doing the YouTube channel, I would get people all the time writing about, hey, what kind of medical coverage do you have? What are you doing? And I would be constantly referring people out to the company that we were getting our insurance through. So it finally dawned on me after probably about 24 people going over there that, hey, guess what? You have an insurance license. You might as well get appointed with these people and at least make something from all of the referrals. So I want to just real quickly tell you that yes, I'm still retired, but yes, I am now appointed with 4 of the different insurance carriers, some of the best carriers in the international health coverage market, and I'm trying to help people find the coverage that will be best for them. However, I'm encouraging you all to do your research, and if you want to run quotes on different programs, I want you to go to warrenjulietravel.com, and in there you'll see the 4 different carriers that I'm representing. Currently I'm appointed with Cigna Global, Geoblue, IMG, and Safetywing, and they have different pros and cons for each of them. You can go there and run a quote for yourself and check things out, but if you need my assistance, feel free to send me an email to warrenjulietravel@gmail.com. But understand, we're traveling, I'm traveling, I consider myself retired, so it can take some time for me to get back to you. Maybe it's going to take 48 hours or a weekend or a few days, so please be patient with me on that. And if you for some reason feel that, Warren, you're just too slow and you need to go back straight to the carrier, you're not going to kill me by doing that. But obviously, if I'm helping you out, I would prefer that you guys go through our website, and I would love to be your agent and get the commission for this. It doesn't change the price if you go through our website, and if you do the link and go through me as your agent. And I need to make sure that I'm clear on that. Julie has no insurance license. She's not involved on that part of the business at all. While we're focused mostly about insurance for expats in this video and expat coverage, I want to talk a little bit about travel insurance also, because having international travel insurance is not the same as having international medical insurance. So international travel insurance or travel insurance when you're traveling is good if you're having layovers you weren't expecting, you lose luggage, you have to have a stay at a hotel unexpectedly, potentially. but it also oftentimes will have a global medical coverage of some sort of a limited capacity to help cover accidents that you might have while you're traveling. It should not be confused with a broader international global medical insurance. Having travel insurance is important also, potentially, and you can find policies through IMG that will have travel insurance, but also there's components of the Safetywing program that will have travel insurance, so that if you have situations that will help you to be covered and stay whole during your adventures. But there's programs that are made for traveling, not for full-time expats. So while you have your expat medical coverage, you'll have coverages for people taking a 2-month, 3-month, or even a 2-week vacation, and those need to be looked at as well. And I'm going to encourage those of you taking short-term trips to look at the IMG Patriot Plan. You can do anything from like a 10-day stay up to a 12 months if you're wanting to do a Patriot Plan. That's going to give you more coverage. And then the travel coverage, a lot of times people might bundle some travel coverage in with their shorter term travel policy for medical coverage. So does that make sense? Hope so. Now hopefully some of you understand the difference between travel insurance and expat health coverage or expat medical insurance. So let's talk medical insurance. But insurance is something many people decide that they're going to travel without. And there's different aspects to travel insurance and international medical insurance that maybe you need, maybe you don't need. You know, when we look at our travel experience as we've traveled around Europe, we have never hit our deductible. We have never used our insurance. We've paid on it now for years. And we have a $2,500 deductible. If we went with a low deductible, zero deductible, yeah, we would have used our coverage, but it costs a lot more. And I'm not going to be the type of agent that's out there trying to make you pay for the most for coverage when it's not necessary potentially. I'm very comfortable with taking a $2,500 hit out of pocket for a medical need, so I don't mind having a $2,500 deductible knowing I'm going to have to pay out of pocket. The amount that medical care costs in so many countries is so much lower than the United States. I know that for Julie and I, we're probably looking at maybe a few $100s a year in expenses, because when you're traveling around Europe and many countries, the cost of medical care is oftentimes just a fraction of what you're going to experience in the United States. So Julie, give a little bit of breakdown of where have we been on our medical care over these years of traveling.
Well, let's first of all talk about Antalya, Turkey. So Warren came down with COVID, and he had pneumonia, and he was pretty sick. We got him to the private hospital, and he had excellent care. He had an MRI, he had a COVID test, and additional lab work. And all in all, on a Sunday morning, in and out, 45 minutes, $750. It was an emergency room. So this was not like going to a little urgent care. This was an actual private hospital emergency room. So we felt like this was great. We went straight across to the pharmacy across the street, and it was $60 for all of his medications. So we were really pleased with that. Another one that happened was, we'll go to me. We were here in Kotor, Montenegro. I've had a lot of gastrointestinal issues over the years. I was quite sick. I went to a gastroenterologist. He spent an hour and a half with me for the consultation. I had a gastroscopy done, which is a tube down the throat into the stomach. And I also had an EKG performed to make sure I could go under twilight anesthesia, and that was $234.74 out of pocket. So those are two fantastic examples. Another one happened in South America, in Ecuador. I had a parasitic infection. I went to a general medicine doctor. He was a little concerned about some of the stomach issues I was having, so he sent me in for an ultrasound. Generally in the United States, an ultrasound means going to a different facility, a lot of time in between the facility and getting the results. I literally walked across the street. I ended up, I think I was in line 30 minutes, $30 in hand with the disc and the printouts or the scans. I went across over to him, and all in all, $30 for that, $20 to see him. He read the results. I had everything I had in hand, and he sent me down for medication, $15 downstairs to the pharmacy. So again, $75 out of pocket total for that entire problem. Another example happened, if anything's going to happen to Warren, it's going to happen in Turkey. So
good place for it to happen.
He went to a sports bar, went to watch the World Cup, and when he did it, he stepped over something, ended up rolling his ankle, and it was a very, very bad sprained ankle. He actually did a video on it. You might find it interesting. We'll put that in the video description. He had a lot of treatments done from a physiotherapist who used to work with the national team, and that total was $156. And that gentleman came to our house twice. That doctor did. Twice he came to our house, and 2 other times Warren went to his facility. And we also had crutches delivered to our house for $30.
And I think what we really were trying to highlight here is that unless you're going to one of the more expensive countries, if you're going to Singapore, if you're trying to include the United States or Hong Kong, the coverage, the amount you're going to pay out of pocket is really not typically going to be very extreme. So it's great to have some sort of catastrophic coverage, but maybe a low zero deductible plan might not be economically advantageous. So I would typically steer people to go towards a higher deductible plan of what you might be able to afford and feel comfortable with. And also, if you're looking at coverages, if you're including places like the United States, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, and there's a few other countries in there that are expensive, those are going to raise your rates up quite a bit. So by excluding those countries quite often in your policies, you're going to bring your coverage down. So for those of you considering wanting to have America as part of your program, there are some that will let you go back to America for part of the time, but realize it's not meant to be coverage in your home country. And sometimes people might choose to do an Obamacare plan in the United States, depending on what their economic situation is, and then have their international medical coverage because it's just cheaper to have one clearly cut out from the other one, and have the American plan if they're back in the States, if they're planning to spend much time there. But if you're a full-time expat, you can still put the America programs in there, but it's going to be a bit more costly when you're putting those countries into the mix. Also understand when you're doing your programs, they're going to be age related almost everywhere you look at. So as you get older, it gets more expensive, and it's an unfortunate reality of insurance. So more than likely, if you're in your 80s, you're going to end up in the doctor's office or into the hospital at a greater frequency than, say, somebody that's 35.
So with that being said, let's discuss why we believe that you should have catastrophic coverage. And I'm going to tell you about a person we know personally. He's 26 years old, and he is in phenomenal shape. But he went to Africa, and when he went to Africa, he contracted malaria. He didn't realize that he had malaria till he returned to the little country of Montenegro. When he got to Montenegro and he became sick, Montenegro told him, "We can't figure out what's going on. If it's malaria, we can't treat you." And he was very, very ill. He had to be airlifted to Slovenia where they could treat his malaria. That airlift was 9,000 euros. He spent 3 weeks in an ICU, and it was well over 50,000 euros. So the reason that we feel catastrophic coverage is important is because of this. He was fortunate. He has enough money to afford this kind of catastrophe. But again, he had Montenegro insurance. He had it through his corporation, but it didn't cover him in Slovenia. So it's something to think about.
That's one of the extreme circumstances that can happen. That's really a reason to have the coverage at least over that threshold that you're comfortable with dealing with. Maybe it's a $5,000 or $10,000, but having that coverage in there. And also, if emergency evacuation is something you're concerned about, that's something to make sure that is in part of the program you're looking for. There are riders that go along with a lot of these programs. Sometimes it has to do with dental or vision, and the dental and the vision are also quite affordable as we're traveling around. When I was down in Turkey, I spent $88 for a year's worth of contacts here in Montenegro. I'm going to be more like about 120, I think, for my year prescriptions, because I have astigmatism, to get my contacts for a year's supply. So depending on where you're going, things could be a little bit more expensive than other places, but still typically affordable. Dental care, Julie, you were in the dentist, and what was the Montenegro dentist charges?
So I had to have 3 root canals and a minor surgery on my mouth, and it cost $295 out of pocket cash.
Yeah, so while there are riders out there for different things, you can add on some life insurance and things. I'm going to try to just tell you, pay for what you think is going to be in your best interest, what's going to help to make your life more secure. But I don't want you spending money on things that maybe aren't necessary, and just depending on how much risk you think you're going to be at, take the plans that are going to cover what you think are going to be best for you. Now, there are different types of programs, and several of them are indemnity, which means that you will pay for your services first. If you have medical care, you're going to be paying out of pocket with cash or credit, and then you would submit your claim for reimbursement. However, pretty much all of them, when something major happens to you, your plan will work with the facility, or try to work with the facility that you're at, and set up direct payment with them. I had a lady that recently found herself injured while she was on her honeymoon, and she had a situation where her husband ended up having to leave her to go back to the States because she ended up having to still have some treatments going on, and this was in Portugal, and she stayed behind and was getting treatment, and the insurance company worked things out with the surgeon, with the hospital, so that she did not have to come out of pocket for an extreme amount of money initially, so that things were being covered. They gave the verification of coverage. And so, depending on the program, that particular one was with IMG. And by the way, Julie and I are with IMG, Geoblue, and Cigna. They're both great policies. A lot of people have them. And looking at those programs, there are some really great pluses to them, but they can be more costly. It's hard to sometimes compare these programs to apples, and the deductibles could be different, the types of coverages are different. I'm going to tell you that if you're going in and you're playing with these programs, I want you to play around with your coverages. Do you need outpatient coverage? A lot of people are just opting for the inpatient coverage. So look at outpatient, inpatient coverage. They'll have different deductibles sometimes, and tailor make the plan that you think is going to be right for you. I encourage you to go to the website, warrenjulietravel.com, and go into these links that we have, and set up your program and look at what you think is going to be your best fit. And the Safetywing is really cut and dry. I'm going to recommend Safetywing to the young digital nomads out there. It's inexpensive coverage, and it takes care of the young and the healthy. If you get older, you have more limitations on the coverage, and I'm not recommending it to the people that are typically going to be 40 and older. But if you're a young person, Safetywing, or looking at the IMG Patriot program. And if you're an employer and you're looking at groups or something like that, come to me. I can look at some of these different programs for your employees if you need to have benefits for them. But there's programs set up for sometimes the students or missionaries. If you've got a group that's on a maritime type of thing with sailors of some sort, there's programs for that population as well. So you can reach out to me, and I can help to see what we can do to find something for your groups. But on an individual basis, I can tell you that this stuff is really esoteric, and that even though I've looked over all of these programs, if you caught me on the phone suddenly and start asking me questions, I'm going to need to go dig into some of this stuff and research. So I'm going to apologize to you, but there's a lot of information here, and depending on your certain situation, I'll need to go in and take a look. So I'm going to encourage you to look at things first for yourself, but if you need me to help you dig in further, reach out to me. I'll try to see what I can do to come up with a solution for you and run some quotes for you if I need to. But I'm going to encourage you guys to try to do some of it first on your own and see what you think, and then come to me, and I'll try to clarify things if I can.
And we also get a lot of questions about language barriers. People want to know, when we go see doctors, when we go see dentists, how do we deal with that? And honestly, we don't find it to be an issue, because most of these countries have English-speaking populations, and if they don't, our Google Translate will generally get us by. We don't have any issues. We've done Turkey, we've done Ecuador, we've done Montenegro, we've had veterinary experiences. Therefore, we can tell you we honestly have made it with Google Translate and the English-speaking populations.
One thing I do want to cover for senior citizens out there, some of the programs will cover you up to age 75, some up to 95, some stop at 65. So there's different programs. If you're dabbling around on the platforms, the IMG one, if you're over 65 and you're not already enrolled in the global program, you'll want to check out the Globe Hopper program. So if you're over 65, you can still look at the Geoblue and the Cigna Global policies and tailor make them to some of the needs that you have. Some of those will cut off at 75. There are other programs that will still keep you covered up to 95, but the prices go up substantially, so please just keep that in mind.
And another question we get is pharmacies. What does it cost in pharmacies? And honestly, again, we do not find it to be an issue. Pharmacies are very cheap. Warren takes a migraine medication as needed, and we have found his pills for 10 pills as low as €1 for migraine medication. We have found antibiotics to be incredibly inexpensive. And pharmacies in other countries oftentimes will help to, I don't want to call it diagnose you, but they will somewhat diagnose you and guide you to the right medication. And a lot of medications are over the counter that are not in over the counter in the United States. So pharmacies really have not been a problem. We generally can get out of the door with $15 or less in almost every circumstance.
When I was in Italy, I used telemedicine with Italy doctors online, and I was able to get a prescription made and go right over to a pharmacy. Very, very easy. Here in Montenegro, I showed up trying to get a prescription filled. They sent me to the doctor around the corner, basically no cost, showed him the prescription I was wanting to get filled, wrote a prescription, went back to the pharmacy, got it filled. So a lot of times what you need a prescription for in the United States, it's no big deal to try to get it filled over the counter in a lot of countries. But if you do need to get a prescription filled in another country, it's small hurdles, not big hurdles.
So to summarize expat insurance abroad, we recommend you take the time to look at the right international health insurance as an expat for peace of mind and financial security. And we encourage you to explore more tips on expat living or share your own experiences with international health insurance in the comments section. We invite you to subscribe for future videos on expat lifestyle and insurance.
As a reminder, we're traveling with our 2 dogs, trying to see what it's like to live in different countries, different places, and we're trying to share our experiences and expenses with you. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ciao.